Welcome to Side Note. I'm Danny Day,
And I'm Nishay.
and we're going to talk about self awareness. Do you see that though? I was trying to be self aware by stopping myself from talking over you because it's impolite.
I see what you did there.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
We'll be discussing self awareness today.
That's a good idea. Okay, so the definition, though, of self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or do not align with your internal standards.
Wow.
If you are highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself, manage your emotions, align your behavior with your values, and understand correctly how others perceive you.
Wow. I just want to say, I feel like 90% of the world does not know how to do that.
Does not know how to do it.
Pieces, but the whole thing, I feel like, or maybe it's better to say 90% of the situations that arise, that's not what I'm doing.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing. And one of the other things that I thought was really interesting was they said, we normally identify ourselves by our position in society. So like for me, I was like, okay, I'm a mom, a sister, a student, I'm hungry. But if you try to identify yourself without mentioning the external, can you do that? Can you identify without mentioning the external? So not who you are to other people, not your position in life, not your address. Can you identify yourself without talking about who you are to everyone else? Like,
I feel naked.
You do. Don't you feel naked? Don't you feel weird saying those things out loud? Like the strengths or the weaknesses. Like, okay, like because this is the area, right? Because for you to be for you, me, whoever, to be able to say, you know, I'm funny, I'm organized, I'm also very angry all the time.
I'm afraid.
Wow. I'm anxious. That's who you are. That's who you are. Like that might not be where you want to stay, but that's who you are right now. And that's who you are showing to everyone else, because whether you acknowledge your weakness or not, everyone still sees them.
Oh, wow.
So whether or not you say that you're anxious a lot, or whether or not you say that you're angry, whether or not you say that you are happy, like everyone else can see it. Everyone else can see it. They can perceive it.
Wow. It makes you wonder, like, ego and what is the purpose of ego? Because it seems like ego can shroud those things for us. Like ego can make it harder to be able to truthfully examine those bits of ourselves. Ego is what makes us want to say what our accolades are in the greater world, because that's connected to like what other people say and what other people think, but in the positive, you know? But like makes you wonder, like, what is the function?
I think that's what
ego.
I that's a good question. And like now that you're saying that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait for this airplane to pass by. I feel like I feel like on one hand, it's there to kind of boost you up, right? To give you like maybe kind of even like a level of hope, and to protect you, right?
That's true.
So, but it's no good if it's not honest. If it's no good to us if we don't keep it in check, as you know. If we don't keep it in check.
That's so interesting too, because when we think about our ego as like our self-image, you know, then you would think that it wouldn't be bruised by the honesty of other people reflecting back to us what we already know about ourselves. It's like, I guess the nakedness is jarring, like it feels away and you want to hide away from it, that nakedness, like those are things, it's like the emperor's new clothes. The whole world could see that he was naked and he knew he was naked, but by them saying, you know, whatever else, by saying contrary, you know, oh, what beautiful raiment, your highness, you look wonderful. Then he was just like, well, dang, I must look good. And so continue down, you know, even though he had to have known he was naked.
Yeah.
And then when the child says, I can see his butt, he's naked, then all of a sudden there's this flood of feelings. It's like, all along you knew you were naked.
You knew.
So,
you knew that everybody else knew you were naked.
They
but
just
your
were protecting
ego.
Yes.
That's a good point, because they did break down, and I didn't write this down, but they broke down like these 4 aspects, right? There's the part of you that you show everyone on purpose and everyone sees, right? And then there's the part of you that nobody sees and you don't even know about yourself. Like there's things that are just bubbling way down and none of that. But the areas that are most prominent are the ones that you know about and you don't want anybody else to know about, but they all know.
Yep. Nonetheless.
Because they can see it.
And maybe even like delving deeper than even just being aware of those things in ourselves that we're trying to hide but other people can see, and even delving down into the point of, and why am I so embarrassed that they know it? Like, what is because I'm trying to hide it? And why am I trying to hide it instead of changing it? It sends you down a whole rabbit hole. It's like too much.
It's a lot
sometimes, but those are the real questions though.
Right.
Know?
And I don't think that people, just how far you went just now, I don't think that most of us go that far.
Oh no.
I think
we stop at being,
we stop at, you know, what was, you said something before, you said, and why do I keep doing it instead of bothering to change it?
Oh yeah, we stop at being touchy at the fact that like they're aware. We just feel embarrassed. We don't try to understand why we're embarrassed by it. Yeah.
So that's the step that we have to train ourselves to get to. Like, why do I feel awkward? Why do I feel embarrassed? Is it embarrassing because there's absolutely nothing I can do about it? Or is it embarrassing because, or is it bothering me because I'm afraid of trying to deal with it, you know, and what's going to happen?
I mean, I even wonder for myself, am I embarrassed because as human beings, we're really social. We give advice to each other all the time. We give critique to each other all the time. Am I embarrassed because this thing that I'm now seeing is not as private as I thought it was, exists despite my effort to hide it? And maybe I'm embarrassed because because I'm trying to hide it. It's like if you're in middle school and you're trying to mask your funky pits with some Bath and Body Works.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just bathe?
Why don't you just
bathe? Yeah, or at least wash your pits. But you just tried to spray or put on some doggone deodorant, but you just tried to spray something over it to mask a smell, and that makes it like embarrassing more than just the smell. It's the fact that you tried to hide it that makes it even worse.
That's what makes it even worse. Like, it's the thought process behind. Like you said, it's the thought process behind, like, why did I try to hide this? And now, like, I have lied in a way because, and for what? I had this like really quick, because I used to, okay, let's say like with fashion, right? I don't think there's anybody on the planet who's like never stepped out of the house with something on that they were like, oh, I shouldn't have worn this. Mm-hmm. But I realized a few years back that I would go so far to try to like maybe not wear the same thing over again, or there would be one specific thing that I would wrap my head around, that I had to wear this for this particular situation. Like I couldn't possibly think of wearing anything else. And I just had to wear this one particular thing. You know what I'm talking about? And so like, instead of, when that doesn't work, instead of just like, let's just get something else and put it on, I would obsess over trying to figure out how to fit that thing into my outfit. And it would take me longer. And then I would still never feel right about my outfit. And a lot of times the outfit would be like a complete fail. Mm-hmm. But because I wouldn't just like be like, okay, I'll just put on what I had on, 2 days ago or whatever. It's clean. It's, put it on, let's go. Just like today, I had to keep myself from changing clothes over and over and over again. And I just put on the same jean shirt that I knew would make my skin look good, and it was fine. The other thing didn't work out. It's fine. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. But there was a time when I would not have accepted that for myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand that. I mean, I went to the degree of like buying things because in my mind, I needed to have this look. Like I was in this environment and I wanted to look this way because this is what I wanted. This is the feel I was going through. And you know what's funny is like the people who are just, they look like they just like are so comfortable, like this is how they always look, are the ones that are like that's what you're trying to look for, look like you're trying to make it look effortless, whatever. But putting so much effort into looking that way, and then it's embarrassing when, like, for example, some of these hipsters, the amount of effort they go through to look like they don't care is hilarious. It's funny. It's so funny to me and makes the whole situation like comical and a little embarrassing. Yeah. Or like buying, and I mean, do I have some too, but like buying clothes that are already distressed in order to make it look vintage and old when it's not. Like, it's just not funny. So much of our like, yesterday. Yeah, you just got it just yesterday. It's not. So much of like at like H&M. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Hot off the press.
It's just,
there's like
still smells new.
There's like 60 other guys that live on your street alone that have the same exact thing. You're trying to look all authentic. It's so funny how we try to look authentic by looking like everyone else. Like, find your style as long as it's only within this set list of styles, Yeah. But everything in our society, though, like, is pushing us towards the facade. Like, everything about social media, like everything about our society, even the health field, instead of actually eating better when you have diabetes or when you're pre-diabetic, we'll just give you a little pill.
We'll give you a pill.
You change your diet and stuff, but this pill is really what's going to keep you alive or keep you from, or slow it down more than you changing your habits.
Girl. And like, okay. I'm trying not to point.
We're working on that with Io. Girl. And her little finger.
But okay, that's a perfect space, girl. Like your health, right? If you were truly self-aware and your internal dialogue is saying, I want to be healthier, I want to do better, then your behavior should match that.
1000%.
Your behavior would match that.
We want the illusion of health, the illusion of youth, even. Like, how many people? I was reading this thing with these like face creams and stuff. I was watching this thing on Netflix about aging, and they were talking about like all these creams and retinoids and all these things, hyaluronic acid and all these other things, none of which actually decrease the aging of your skin. It just decreases the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, which is
fine lines, which is what they always say, right?
None of them slow down the aging.
Really? So if you stop using it, you're screwed.
You're still aging. Like to correct that, when I say you're still aging, I mean, it's still moisturizing the skin and all of that, but it's not taking away your body's need for extra moisture. It's not increasing the elasticity of your skin and the production of those oils in your skin and the production of estrogen that keeps all of these things looking fresh and whatever. Right. It's not doing that. It's just providing the moisture that your skin desperately needs because it's aging. It doesn't slow down that part. Yeah. It just decreases the appearance of aging by giving it back what it needs to a degree, and
I think I knew that, but like when you look at it from the perspective of like self-awareness and like,
it's a whole industry built on like that myth that this is going to rejuvenate you.
And not to poo-poo on it, because we know what it's like to want to get up and spruce yourself up and feel better.
Girl, you should see my little dresser right now. I got my hyaluronic acid with vitamin C. Girl.
Yeah.
Retinoids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also need to do the things on the inside. Like it's got to be the mind shift that matches what we're doing on the outside.
1,000%. 1,000. This is why I'm doing this.
The water.
Drinking water.
Yeah, yes. Girl. You know I always got my water.
Oh, my water.
And I've been using, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've been using apple cider vinegar water mix, like with apple cider vinegar, half and half. And I just cotton swab. And and here's the other thing, longevity with things. Like if you are really self-aware, right? You're going to do things for long enough and you're going to be patient about allowing that change to happen.
Yes.
Because it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to just like fix your anxiety issue overnight. You're not just going to fix your, outside of a miracle, which do happen. But those things are not going to fix overnight, but people are going to notice you changing for the better before you probably realize it for yourself, because you're going to be putting in the work.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But yeah, like with that, with the apple cider vinegar, I had to stop and say to myself, now look, it's been like 4 or 6 weeks since you started doing this on a regular basis. And even though my skin is not perfect and flawless and blah, 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 I can see like a drastic change in certain areas of my face that have always been troubled or always had, certain issues. So it's like, okay, you got to put in the work.
You've got to. And it's routine, like having a routine, a healthy routine. And I think people want the quick fix of a routine.
Oh, yeah.
So they want to hop on YouTube and how to have great skin in 1 week. And it's like, find the routine. And then you're discouraged because that person's routine didn't work for you.
Yep.
Or weight loss program didn't work for you. Or path out of depression didn't work for you. It's trial and error. And it's experimenting. You have to really explore yourself and experiment with different things to find what works for you. Maybe, you require more sleep than most, and it can't just be for after 9 till whatever. You need to go to bed at 7 o'clock, maybe.
Right.
And you need to be up at 4. Like that's all you need, and that's when you feel your best. Who knows? But like to find the rhythm and the routine that works for you, and then to care about yourself enough and to develop the discipline to see it through. That's my struggle right now. Because there'll be things that I discover are good for me and make me feel much better. You've known me through various swings. There'll be times when I'm like, girl, I'm working out. I got weights. I'm doing this. I feel so good. I feel like I
wrote 5 songs last night.
Yeah, girl, I'm on it. Yeah. And then you'll be like, that's awesome. Yeah, okay, cool. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, girl, I'm so tired and frustrated and low. And, you know, like that quick, you know? And a lot of it is that the thing that I was doing that helped give me energy, resting and getting exercise and eating good food, is like sometimes the second you start taking off and you start feeling better, you forget that that's why. And you just want to like parlay all of that. Like you want to be up all night. You got to keep a routine. I remember doing this thing where for a month, I was drinking a gallon of water every day. I felt so good. It wasn't just like my skin looked good. My memory was sharper. Like my memory was better. My sleep was better. I could get, my joints felt completely supple. Like I could just get up. Yes. I wasn't popping and cracking and locking and breaking the way that I was before, doing all the popping. Yes,
get out of bed.
You know, just getting out of bed. Your kid is like, pick me up, and you bend over and you're like, whoa, you hear that crack all the way down. Yes. You know, I had none of that. All my joints felt good. I didn't have any aches. I didn't have any headaches. I could remember things much better. My focus was much better. You would think, as much as I complain about being tired and my skin and my achy bones and how I'm not resting well and how I'm stressed and how I can't remember nothing and got mommy brain and all, that I would remember that and make that my routine. This is the part, I think it's where like it's where you start moving out of the knowledge phase and into the wisdom phase of life. It's not enough to just know it. I know that, but I need to like know it enough to apply it in my life, like have the knowledge and the discipline and the experience and the foresight and the insight all come together in one beautiful manifestation of like a healthy life. Yeah,
girl. And you know, when you're saying that, like the first thing I think of is, you know, either fitness or religion, right? And I will say this to my Christian folks out there. It's one thing to know the Bible and know who God is. It's another thing to have a relationship. And when you have a relationship, that relationship reflects on your other relationships. When you are spending time with someone, you're going to start behaving in ways like that person that you're around. If you respect them, if there's somebody that's, you know, and so I don't want to hear this like Bible beaten rhetoric if your life looks like, now I'm not saying you need to be perfect, but there's certain qualities of self-control and patience and goodness that should be exuded. If you're walking around talking about how you Christian and you running off to church every Sunday and you can quote every scripture in the Bible, I don't want to hear all that. Please. I need y'all to hear me. Faith
is dead.
Yeah, faith without works is dead, and that's what it's talking about. It's talking about your behavior. It's talking about your behavior. It's not about like going out and feeding the poor if you cussing your kids out. You know,
girl, we do see that now. They're like, "Won't he do it, girl? Won't he do it? Shut up."
Yeah. And you see it. We can see it in the way your children respond to you. We see it in the way that we see it just like what we're saying. Like if you are not self-aware, you are running around with no clothes on, and everybody sees it. But your mouth you think your mouth is talking louder than your behavior? Oh, honey.
Man, I mean, it really is a dangerous thing to you know, it just makes me look back at my own life and look at my current life and really want to make changes in terms of being more and more self-aware, you know, I think I can see over my life an incline, like an increase. I will give myself as one should.
You're
as
doing
one should.
good. Let your ego speak to that.
Speak to that ego. You know, like as it should. As you get older, your vantage points should get wider and wider, and you should be able to see. Right now, Io, all she cares about is what she wants and what she thinks, and my toy, bread, and my thing, and my money, and bread, and oatmeal, and Peppa Pig. That's all she cares about. Yes, you know, and her fox earrings and whatever else. But like, then you watch, you know, my sons, their awareness has included now me and their friends and their grandmother and their daddy and their sister. And then it just keeps panning out to where, you know, when I speak about my father's perspective is all the way to his grandkids and to future generations he's thinking about. Yeah. You know, like that's it's interesting how that happens. So it should happen over life, but it just, even in that natural, I guess, increase of self-awareness, I think that we also have to acknowledge it's not just about where we are in our age, just like it's not just where a child is in their grade level. It's like who you are as a person. And so always be striving to get higher and higher in that field. Because when I think about it, it is very easy. Either I have been or I've known people who were almost like tanks driving unoccupied through a city, just running over everybody and everything.
Dumping on everything.
Just obliterating. Yeah, because you're just, if people realize like how much power your word has, how much power your energy has, and all of that, and if you're just wielding it, it's the same thing I tell my kids when we talk about sex. I say, listen, your body, you didn't come with like your own little personal manual telling you, okay, now this does this at this time, and this does this, and, right? You know, in case of this, do this. It doesn't do that. You got parents that hopefully give you some kind of insight, and that's a lot of based on like what I did wrong. That I'm like, that was not the button to push. That was not the way to go, you know. But at the end of the day, like explaining to them, you must know yourself. You must know yourself, and you must know the direction that you're moving in and who you want to be and what you're patterning your life after. Because if you don't, this body is a grenade waiting. Like it can obliterate like your anger or you know, your physical body, like your physical self, or you know, your path in life and how it affects other people and where it derails other people or whatever. Like it's important to be intentional. And you know, speaking also to routine then and discipline on, you know, because I've been talking to them a lot about discipline and how to give yourself a structure and a way to measure yourself and to also have goals and develop methods and ways for accomplishing those goals. I take them back a lot of times to the way that track and field informs everything in my life to this day. Like sports in general, but track and field because that was my main.
It's your model.
Yeah. And when you look at a routine, every day we had a routine. We weight trained in the morning. We had we warmed up, like we did our run, we did our weight training. Then, you know, when you go to practice, you run, you stretch for forever. Then you do some drills. Then you get into practice. Then you cool down. Then you stretch some more. Then you go home. And if you need to go to the trainer, you go and you stretch some more and drink lots of water. Every day it was the same thing though. No part of that was left out because every day it's what we did. And it optimized our performance as athletes. It wasn't because one day we just showed up and we were like, we're so talented, watch us win. It was like, look at us go. You know, it was that discipline of having a routine that you followed, because also through the routine, you also knew when something was wrong. So there were times that before practice even happened, before I even got to the meat of practice where I'm running my brains out, while stretching, I realized, whoa, there's something going on with my hamstring. And coach says, okay, take it easy. Maybe do some light, jogging, take it easy on your drills. But you can see that something like through having a routine. Imagine if I had just come to practice and just gotten the track and tried to zoom off, I would have hurt myself.
Yep.
And been out for a chunk of the season because I'd have pulled a muscle or something.
Yeah.
The routine helps you to even know where you need to put more focus, what's wrong, what's right. You might during stretching realize, well, I could put my whole cheek down on the ground. Like, how did my stretching get that good? Before I was like struggling, and now I can put my whole cheek down on the ground.
Yeah.
It even shows you how you've improved. So to find a practice, and that's why, like, when you're talking about religion, like the two ways that you kind of most commonly see that is like religion and some kind of physical exertion sport. Yeah. Because it gives you a way to every day do a check and balance of where you are in a disciplined way.
A guidepost.
Yeah. Life is no different.
And the beauty of what you're saying is like you still have the ability, when you are on the journey of self-awareness, it still gives you the space to be your unique self. You don't have to do it like everyone else,
Definitely.
When you find your stride, stick with it.
Yeah.
You can try different things at different times, but you don't have to feel like, oh, well, if I don't do it exactly like this or exactly, like that, like we were talking about, you find this thing online that says lose weight in 10 days or, maybe part of that program works for you, makes you feel energetic, but another part doesn't. So you're a unique individual. You have a unique body. I mean, there are things about us that are very much alike, but we all still are very unique. And that's what makes us beautiful. And that's what this journey makes this journey beautiful. It's like, you don't have to line up. This is not about lining yourself up with someone else. It's about lining your behavior up with the truth about what you got going on. Not that dialogue that you repeat to yourself over and over again to drown out what your gut is telling you. Because I've done that. You got this whole thing going on, and because and what I'm not gonna and what you ain't gonna do is
I'm a queen of that, yo.
That is not speaking in tongues.
Oh gosh.
Listen, I mean, I think a lot of us have that, we are vocalizing.
I'll be ready next time. Watch. And I hope he does. I hope she do. You know what? I got something for that. Okay.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is, and then you plan out this whole scenario in your head that 9 times out of 10 never comes to pass. And it never comes to pass the way you wanted it to.
No.
So rather than exert all of that mental yelling that we've got going on, maybe next time just take it down a notch. When you hear yourself, because that conversation is going to come, but when you hear yourself having that conversation, just stop yourself and say, like, why am I so upset? Why am I so upset? Okay, yes, she said blah, 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 blah. Now, is that true? Is that true, what she said? Regardless of what I feel like, how I feel, and how she said it, is it true? Is it true? And no, I don't care. Not about whether or not the timing was right. I get all that. Like, but was it true? Was it true? And if it is true, then what do I need to change? What do I need to fix about myself?
Truth. Yep. What do I need to do now?
So that the best way to take that rug out from under somebody when they're talking and saying stuff that you don't want to hear is to not be that. I'm not like that anymore. To be able to say that to yourself. You know what? I used to be like that, but I'm not like that anymore. If they can't see it, then they don't, that's on them.
That's on them.
But I'm not like that anymore. I have changed.
And
know I've changed.
Oh, yeah.
That's peace.
That's peace. When you're like, I could be my old self, but I choose to go high when they are going low. And that's a big step for me. So whatever they say, wherever they're going with it, it's all right, because I'm making a choice to stay up here. And that is for my own peace and my own elevation and my own goals and my own trajectory. So while they sit here talking about who I was, I'm gonna be who I'm trying to be and where I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Girl. Because even the smallest little change, you know, goes such a long way. If you think about, like, you know, going down a straight road, and if you just make a change of 20 degrees to the right or left, for a while, you're still going to be able to see that other path for a while, but eventually you're going to be so far away from that other path.
That's true.
It's not even going to be detectable anymore.
It's
so
true.
I don't know. This thing is blessing me, because I was like, yo, the thought that we normally identify ourselves by our position in society.
That's true. That's real. I'm a mom. I'm a artist. I am a community organizer, and you know, I'm a really nice person. I take care of my neighbors, and you know, and I'm on the PTA. It's like, okay, none of that tells me who you are. Like, and that's
because the
really
serial
true.
Killer could be all that.
And
not that you're any of that.
Truth. But what I'm noticing too is that when I'm dealing with a particularly difficult bout of depression or what's the other word for it? Depression. Gloom. And just malaise, you know? One of my friends it was like depression. She was like, sometimes not even depression, Danielle. Sometimes just depletion. Like, you have nothing, no energy, no nothing. And you're not putting anything back, you know? But when I find that I'm in those zones and people ask me how I'm doing, I respond as a PTA mom or a mom or all these other things. And I'm not responding as what I really am. And the answer feels so hollow. It just contributes also to the feeling of just like, I'm so far from who I want to be. But it's such an interesting, sometimes you have to touch the dark to see the light, you know, and hear yourself. I think that it makes our lowest points like that much more of an area to explore all of who we are. We are not just only always in the light. So maybe it's also an encouragement to be self-aware, even in the moments when we are at our lowest, to not just sit and dream of like where we're going, you know, but to hear where we are. It's like when you're having an argument with somebody and while they're talking, all you can do is think about what your next argument is. I think when you're sidelined or you're sat down in your sadness or your grief or your depression or your fatigue or your sickness or whatever it is, don't drown out the conversation that could be had with yourself by only thinking about this thing. Sometimes you have to sit, and it's not dwelling in negativity, because someone could say, well, I refuse to acknowledge these things. It's not, I'm not saying to like sit and be like, woe is me, I'm so sickety sick. I mean, what is this sickness exposing to me?
What
like about myself?
Yeah.
You know, there's some kernel of, otherwise I wouldn't be going through this. Nothing happens just for no reason. Like, why am I going through this? We like to say that everything happens for a reason, but we don't really look for the reason in all of it.
Come on.
So to look at, like, for example, dealing with postpartum depression, and to really have to realize that like so much of what I'm saying about myself to other people when they ask me how I'm doing is a lie. And why am I lying like that? It's because I don't want their pity. I don't want that look in their eye where they're like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. I don't want their empty promises of how they're going to call me or check up on me or any of those things. It's protecting myself from their judgment and from needing them. Because once you tell somebody something like that, there's a degree to which you hope that something happens. Like if you tell somebody, I feel like I'm at my wit's end, I don't know how I'm gonna make it through the night, Part of me is hoping I don't even wake up tomorrow. There are people who feel like that.
Yeah.
If they were to say that, they're not just saying it to say it. So what are they hoping for from you when they say something like, that's why they don't say it. Cause what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's why they don't say that. They're saying, I'm good. Cause it's just a clean one-stop shop way of just being like, I'm good, and nobody's responsible for anything. You can stay in your feeling and they can stay in their happy ignorance of where you are, and you just go on. But it's just an interesting thing that your darkness shows you like your lack of self-awareness, or shows you how self-aware you should be, because it turns up the fire on all those things that need attention. And maybe that's why you have depression to begin with.
And I think I agree with you. Like I try to be very sensitive, because I don't think I've ever been like what would be termed like clinically depressed. Like I've had times where I just have been unhappy in general, and like you've seen me go through those times where it just felt like but I don't know if I was technically depressed, but I do know that I think that there's a level of not allowing ourselves to go deep enough. Even when I was going through what I was going through, it was always like, well, if someone else would just do this or be this way or be that way, or if this situation was different. And where I was able to come out of that was when I realized, like, nobody can make you happy but you. And you have to figure out how to be happy no matter what's going on externally.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it was just one of those things where it was like, okay, I would have a moment where I'd be irritated, something would like rub me the wrong way externally, and I would just be like, you know what, I'm not going to stay there. I'm not going to stay there. I'm just going to leave that thing alone. And the further away you get from that stuff, it looks less whatever, like the less you speak about it, how they, the thought of like, you give things energy. When you give things energy, it, when you focus on things, it becomes bigger. The same is true as like when you don't look at it, when you don't replay a conversation over and over, and well, she said, and the way he said that was, and I didn't, like, if you just don't even give it any air, and you and I have had those things where I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you this happened, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I don't want to,
I got to just let it out. And I just got to
say it one time, and that's it. And you'll be like, yeah, girl, because that ain't right, and just that'd be it. Let's talk about something else.
You ain't wrong. I know you don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm just going to say.
Just saying.
You ain't wrong.
You ain't wrong. and you handled it the way you needed to, girl. You human. Go ahead.
Hey, you was a better woman than me.
Because what I would have did.
Sometimes I be forgetting she don't want to talk about this, because I'm like, because what I would have said would.
Well, it's good to hear sometimes too, but yeah, like you gotta, but that's also in who you choose to talk to those things about, because I know that I'm not gonna leave the conversation after getting off the phone with you and be like, well,
girl,
wah, wah,
most times it just serves as like comic relief. Relief. The things, when I tell you the things you and I have been able to laugh at, and I don't mean like chuckle, I mean
thankful,
rolling, laughing,
crying,
the things we're the things we're able to just turn it around and be like, girl, ain't that funny though?
Yeah,
that is the truth. That is the truth.
Yeah, girl. You need people, because it's not that we're not keeping it in perspective, but it's shifting the perspective on it and being like, okay, oh, baby.
Sometimes you just need to cock your head to another side to see the absurdity of a situation. Like, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Why was I so mad?
It's crazy. It's not something to be upset about. That's something to put in a museum.
What they need is my pity. That's what they need. I'm over here practicing scathing words, and like what they need is like a reassuring pat on the back,
some compassion and empathy. Like, you clearly need help.
Oh my gosh, girl. Oh
Yeah,
my
girl.
gosh. Can't tell you
Yeah,
how many
girl.
times I started writing a text that was full of all the things, and then they said one thing that was like, "Oh, so I gotta go back and like be deleted."
Let me take this off, because you just lost. Just lost.
Delete it all and hit you with, "I'm gonna pray for you."
I'm
But
gonna just pray for you. That's what I'm gonna do.
pray for you. But I will say, because I've definitely experienced the depths of some pretty gnarly depression. And while I won't say that, like, because I don't want to trivialize it, I think there are a lot of people who do have chemical imbalances. I don't know what, I'm sure that mine was kind of started by a plethora of things. Being pregnant, being tired, not taking care of myself, and like a whole host of other expectations I had placed on myself and on the world and on other people in my world. Like, it was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like one of the purposes, so maybe it's better to not say the purpose of or the point of it is, and just say that one of the very large points that can add something to our lives, as it feels like it has us in the sidelines just watching and waiting, is that it can illuminate to us the ways in which we have not been honest with ourselves.
Yes.
And that is powerful.
Yeah.
That and then once you know the ways that you have not been honest with yourself, even in your depression, you can begin to be honest with yourself, though.
Yeah.
Even in your depression, I mean, I like, I'll say I have been able to be like, the end of the day, though, Danielle, like this, and this.
Yeah.
And so what we gonna do?
We all have things that if we just sit still for a minute, we all have things that we could drudge up and be like, this is something that I could be ashamed about. This is something that I could feel, disappointment or just lack of humanity toward myself, Yeah. And, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but just, there's things that you can feel guilty about or feel shameful about or feel disappointed or, but I think that's the first step, is to be able to say, okay, this is something that I'm ashamed of. This is something I am disappointed that this happened, or that I went through this.
Yeah.
But is it going to define me? How do I want to define myself?
Right.
Right. And who am I really? Like, if the fact that you're even having that, like, I feel ashamed of this, shows that you're a good person. It shows that you want more for yourself. It shows that you expect more for yourself. So set on that path of being more. Oh, yeah. If there's somebody you need to apologize to, apologize and move on. Not that, not downplaying that aspect, but don't stay there. Do not stay in a place of shame and guilt and disappointment. And there you will have other opportunities for that.
Believe you me. Yes.
There will be other opportunities, but train yourself to say, okay, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I'm not going to stay here. There are things that I can do that are different. Maybe I can teach someone else not to be this way, or whatever it is, You haven't done so much in the negative that you can't just cut a clear path. This is not like a balancing act where, okay, well, I have to do X amount of good to balance out the X amount of bad that I've done. That's not what it is. That's not how it works. Right. I know that there's people that, believe in karma, but you can't get, there's no like mathematical equation to figure that out. All you can do is do one thing at a time that makes you know that your character is beginning to align with who you believe that you can be.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think also it can have a real humbling effect, not just on an individual, not just on me as an individual, but a humbling effect on like me as part of like the human body, and what the human body represents, like the humankind. Because I think when you examine how connected we all are, and that if I'm going through it, I'm not the only person in the world or the history of time that has gone through this.
No.
And so it causes you to humble yourself in that, but also when it causes you to be able to acknowledge that there are way more people than we know walking around feeling how you felt. And as good as you were at hiding it or masking it or lying to yourself about it is as good as they are.
Yep.
And so when you acknowledge that, it does have a very humbling effect, because it does make it to where there are certain things you'll just forgive.
Yeah.
There are things that I'll just forgive, especially if I know that I've done those things. Maybe not to this person, but it isn't about tit for tat. Maybe not to that person, and what they're doing is sending me nuts. But at the same time, I know that in my lack of self-awareness and my lack of being honest with myself, in my moment of weakness, I did this thing.
Yep.
So like, can I be mad, at this person? I know where they're coming from.
Yep.
Now I have I have a better vantage point. And so maybe now I can speak to this person with a level of understanding that I didn't trust people to speak to me with when I was going through my stuff, which is why I said I'm fine when I wasn't fine. So maybe I can be a balm of some kind to someone else if I can, just by speaking to the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
Look, sis, I just want you to know that, you're beautiful, you're gifted, I know you're tired, and you deserve taking rest. You deserve good things. You deserve sometimes just as simple as that, telling somebody, oh, you're beautiful, I love you, and you deserve life's goodness. Just know that whatever it is you're going through, just know that like you deserve wellness, you deserve health, you deserve joy, you deserve love. Sometimes that's all you got to say to people. And even if in that moment they can't hear it clear as day, it's an important thing to have play in your mind when you're in that zone, to have somebody see you enough to say that to you, take a moment to say that to you. Sometimes there are times when, like, in those moments, it wasn't even that I believed what they were saying. It wasn't like I was like, oh, you're right, and now I feel better. It wasn't that. It was like,
here comes the birds.
Yeah. If that was the case, then my mama could have made me feel better, like taking me out every time. But it was that somebody took the moment to stop and see you, and not knowing exactly what you're going through, they took the moment to see you. So some of these things that we go through, the harder things, really can add to our field of vision. And help us to know ourselves, but also to know better how what we do or don't do can affect other people based on where we were and how we were in a situation. And that's why the golden rule, do to others what you would have them do to you, that's where it has a lot of power. It's not just in your good times, it's in your misery, it's in your hurt and in your pain. That will show you especially what not to do to people.
Especially girl. I think that's I agree. I think that's a great way to put it, because you hear that over and over, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not superficially, like, be self-aware, not to what they would do to the external you. What about the real you? Oh yeah. What do you want to speak to the real them? Because I think even though we do perceive people's ugly stuff, a lot of times we'll go, like the emperor's new clothes, we'll go along with that facade. That's what you want to wear, invisible clothes, then great.
Who am I? It's so important too to, like you said, to not focus on like the negative that people do or exude, and instead look at how you can enhance the good. So look for the good to enhance in them, because I love people who enhance my goodness, who make it easier for me to be good, who make it, girl, when we used to work at this nonprofit, one of the directors there spoke about how why there were, because we had a very open door kind of way of doing things. We didn't want there to be these hierarchies and these striations of power that were so mirroring our like parent culture. But at the same time, it was acknowledging where some people were. It was acknowledging that there were people who were coming with certain struggles and difficulties. And so sometimes a locked door helps to keep somebody honest, you know, who are trying to be honest. Yeah. You know, there were people that we had there that were struggling with addiction, and they were good people and loving people, but they were struggling with a certain thing. Yeah. That if an opportunity presented itself, let's say for you know, an unlocked door to have like the laptops in there and the door is unlocked and they know that it's unlocked and they know that they could just get to it. But in a moment of weakness, it'd be easy for them to get in there. And it's not because they want to, it's because of an addiction or a sickness that they're dealing with. Yeah. And likewise, I feel like people in my world who make it easier for me to be good, and not just because they're good and because we only do good things together, but they'll also put up a boundary and say, that's where they'll hold me accountable. You know, yes, that girl. Accountability, you know, because in order for there to be an accountability is so intimate. It's when you really check
very intimate.
You know?
Yeah. That's a good point.
It is super intimate.
That's a really good point.
You know, thanks, girl. Thanks.
I never thought of it that way, but like it's saying, look, I care about you enough and I care about myself enough to say, this is not okay. And it's not because of a lack of appreciation or love. It's because I don't want this to be a bad thing between us.
And I want to enhance the good. I'm looking for the good to enhance. So people can look at accountability as like, you're always looking for the negative and the wrong. No, I'm seeing the good and I'm trying to enhance the good. And it's intimate because at your heart of hearts, who you say you want to be, which is personal, who you every day you wake up, that's your mission in life, is to be that person.
Right.
Every time you get knocked down, your mission is to get back to being that person. That's your mission in life. That's your purpose. Nothing's more intimate and personal than that, because you're the only one who can exact that the way that you can exact it. Given that fact, I'm not looking for the negative. I'm looking at who you want to be. And I'm trying to sharpen those tools that'll help you get there.
Yeah.
I've had to really check that in myself, where accountability felt annoying. Like from my partner, accountability felt annoying. Why are you always looking for the I felt like that, not because of anything he was doing or saying. I felt like that because of how I was choosing to meet the truth of me not being or acting in line with who I wanted to be. Yeah. So you do have to then question, why am I so mad at him for saying to me what I should be saying to myself? Why am I mad because he's saying it? You know, accountability is intimate, and that's why it's so difficult to have it in certain arenas. Like, for example, in the political sphere, keeping our politicians accountable is difficult because politics automatically it's difficult to have intimacy with politics. Politicking is saying whatever you need to hear, whatever I gotta say, and all of that. So it's very difficult. There's a reason why it's hard to hold our leaders accountable, because they're constantly wheeling and dealing, figuring out how to stay afloat in that soup.
Yeah.
You know? But on our base levels with each other, and even we could go truly base down to being a human being, and just feel you could see a kid or a young person doing something, or anyone really doing something, like the day that I was at the gas station and that woman started berating, a Black woman berating this Bangladeshi shop owner because her card declined, to be able to, and I mean, the things she was saying were so vile and so nasty, and you don't belong here, and I'm where I'm supposed to be, but you're not supposed to be here, and trying to get other people in the space to agree with her because she could other him that way and not feel othered herself. To appeal to the very basic human in her and be like, why would you try to make somebody feel the way that you know how it feels, how it has felt, how it's felt in this country, how it's felt as a woman, how it's felt economically disadvantaged? On every level, you know how it feels to be othered. Why on earth would you then turn around and other this man in this way for something that is not at all his fault or under any measure of his control, robbing him even of the option to be able to say, just take it?
Yeah.
He can't even say that now because you just came against his whole livelihood and family with your work.
His whole ancestry.
Yeah. You know, you just came against his religion. Like, how's he supposed to now? And so to appeal, like, we can speak to appeal to our humanness and be accountable. There is an intimacy shared by being even of the same species and of the same language and the same ability to communicate and process thought. But ultimately, you know, to stop seeing accountability as an affront and rather accountability being the one thing that as we progress in this world towards whatever we're progressing towards, as we participate in an evolution of sorts of like our social psychology and our power and our relationship to money and all of that, without accountability, we are like animals. We are going to just charge ahead and do whatever. And even animals have an innate accountability within themselves. A lion is going to eat that one gazelle. All the other gazelles can stop running once that lion gets that one gazelle, because he's not trying to kill everybody.
Just kill
and
everything.
Eat everybody. Yeah. So even on an animal level, they've got something that we need to remember. Because instinct doesn't rule us the way that it rules us, then there has to be some kind of collective knowledge and agreement that keeps us in check. And the only way that that works is if we allow the intimacy of community, and we are communal creatures, to activate and utilize accountability in that way. That causes us to reflect as a species, as a community, and as a family and as an individual on what it is that we're doing and how it's affecting everything else. I'm waiting for that accountability to really swell when it comes to us and our role in the world and how we affect everything else on the planet. And we just feel like we can just, I mean, this thing, it's like the macro and the micro, you know, the macro and the micro, you know, on so many levels back and forth, it applies. It's like
it totally
one of
does.
these, one of these equations that Ashay's working on right now, or a natural law. It's real. Like, accountability is necessary.
It's absolutely necessary.
You know?
And you can't be, you won't hold yourself accountable if you don't have that measurement of like, okay, who am I saying I am, and who am I really? Is that measuring up? And then, like you said, like that impacts the community, and what is that, through epigenetics, butterfly effect, it affects everyone, you know, around you. When you have the ability to walk in that self-awareness, which prompts you to be held, you're willing to be held accountable.
Oh yeah.
You're holding yourself accountable, and then you're willing for others to hold you accountable.
And that's
girl.
That's why, like, some of the clamoring that we hear for change, and on every level, from civil rights to, you know, economics, you know, socioeconomics, to the healthcare industry, to the environment, like, we can make all these signs and we can say whatever we want, but until we're willing to even do the accountability that is required on a very base level with us inside our own heads, really taking stock of what we believe and how that manifests in the world, then all that is just talk. That's why this conversation is so interesting. Like, I don't think I ever really, prior to like our conversation last week, you know, you know that you need to like know yourself and think about these things, but like to really understand what it is to be self-aware is to be able to understand how self-aware I am not. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter all the work that I try to do if in an instant I can undo that work with a word or an attitude or whatever.
Yeah.
And
then not hold yourself accountable for it.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And even the saying, like, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. For anyone, it is for us all. Like,
yeah,
that is the truth. If we're really trying to raise our collective psyche and our collective awareness and our morality and our productivity and our ability as human beings, which there's so much that we could do, but until everyone starts to look inwardly, look at themselves and really check those things, you know, and be self-aware, not selfish, but self-aware,
not self-absorbed, not, you know, right. It's self-awareness is a measure of kindness. It's a measure of kindness to yourself because you're committing to healing yourself. It's like Dr. Eager said, be your own mommy, right? So if you're being your own mommy, you're going to be so careful with yourself and you're going to be so loving, but you're also going to pay attention to yourself, and you're going to, you know, you're going to want to heal yourself to wholeness, not just put a Band-Aid on it. You're going to check and make sure, is it healing? Do I need to put anything on it? What else do I need? I'm going to feed it right. I'm going to, you know, you're making sure that you're thriving. And then if you're thriving, everything around you is going to thrive because that's going to overflow.
It's
you know,
so true.
I think we've gotten caught up in this like self-care thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it needs to be deeper than just self-care. Like you were saying, you can put all that stuff on the outside of your face, but if your mind is rotten and your attitude is rotten, what's the point?
It feels like, especially because sometimes I feel like self-care as it's meant is more attached to happiness, which is fleeting.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, it's
feels good
happiness.
For a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
feels good for a moment.
I did a facial mask, and not to hate on facial masks. I had been known to love one, but the real self-care is like a real inventory of like, okay, I could go and do this face mask or have this massage or whatever, but like, then I come back to my situation. So true self-care would be, how do I adjust my situation and my thinking?
Yeah. So while I have the face mask on.
While I have the face mask on. while I'm getting the massage.
I'm also going to work through, you know, I'm really going to start working through this thing that's going on in my mind, you know?
And not make it hard. Like, I think sometimes, because I'm guilty of this, where I'll make it so hard, and part of the hardness of it is the resistance, because I'm not fully being honest with myself.
That's it.
You can't lie to yourself. That creates resistance within you automatically. It's dissonance. Like it you can't lie to yourself. I mean, you can lie to yourself. You can,
but guess what?
But not
who knows you're lying to yourself.
Exactly.
Yourself.
You know? And it creates
get mad at
stress.
Yourself. Yep.
Yes.
We're stressed.
And you're stressed out. Yeah. You're stressed because then you have to like keep up a facade to everyone else and attempt in some futile way to maintain it against yourself, with yourself too.
With yourself.
I find like, those thoughts are difficult when I'm fighting with myself. And when I'm fighting with myself is usually that I'm either lying to myself or I'm not or I'm choosing intentionally like to be willfully ignorant of something. I'm not going to think about that right now because I just can't, my brain. But like when you actually say, if you lead with, what do I want? That thought should give you joy. That, not happiness, joy, like a wellspring. It should be, who am I trying to be and where am I trying to, what is my purpose? Like that should give you joy. So when you start the conversation with that, rather than like, you know, how am I with the problem? If you started with that, I tell my kids all the time, decide who you want to be. Even if you don't know what you want your profession to be, you have no idea what your purpose in life is. Whoever really fully does, I feel like half the time, by the time people know what their purpose in life is, they're about to like go to the next side. You know, I feel like how can you ever know? You have a whole life to live and it changes and it's dynamic. But I tell them all the time, decide who you want to be, the destination that you're going in. As lofty as he may be, speaking to my sons, as lofty as who that person may be. And that way, every problem, every person, every situation that comes up, if it's not in line with getting you to that place, problem solved. Yep. Then that thing needs to go. That girlfriend needs to go. That job needs to go. Yeah. That way of thinking needs to go. Yeah. Focus on what you do want. So while you're lying there getting your massage and you have your mask, and I know none of us want to, we're supposed to be not stressing and getting rid of, good, don't stress. Think about what you want. Think about what you want.
I think that's what the you know, where we block ourselves off, because it's like, oh, that's stressing me out thinking about it. Well, it's stressing you out because you're not allowing the thought to go all the way through. You keep putting up blocks for the thought, or where it feels uncomfortable, you don't want to, you know, keep going. But that's you putting the stress on yourself, you know? And like you were saying, like, if you ask yourself, like, what do you want? It can't be attached to the external. It can't be attached to, well, I want them to apologize because, or I want them to change their behavior, or I want them to da-da-da-da. Yeah. You can't really use that as your guide. You need to figure out what it is that you want inside, that you can produce, that you can create, that you can manifest. Not necessarily control, but that you can walk in the right direction of. And like you said, you look towards, like, what do you want to be? And then walk towards that. But it can't be a result of external, because you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. Because if God wants to change something in you, he's going to allow that person to continue behaving in that way, so that until you till you straighten out that thing.
It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. You know, it's crazy how, like, homeschooling my kids and watching how ingrained certain thoughts are and certain processes have become in my mind, how I've normalized so many things that really aren't that natural to us as human beings. It's causing me to really think outside of the box more and more in other aspects and areas. And to find places that we, and you've told me this, like, find places that we choose this stress that we don't need. Like when I call you and I'm like, I'm scared homeschooling my kids. Like, now I've got to relearn everything. I feel so stupid. I can't remember, like, you know, how to do differential quadratic equations. And I can't remember how to find the slope of y. And what do I do? And you're like, girl, first of all, woosah. Okay. This is supposed to be a joy. You're taking on something that you want to take on. You want to homeschool your kids and you know all the virtues of it. So stop, be happy about the choice you made, and now reframe it in a way that works for you and your kids, because that's why you're doing it, right?
That's why you're doing it.
You're like, oh yeah.
That's right.
I was still trying to do it like a teacher, like, you know, I was trying to do it like a full-on middle school and be 7 teachers to my kid at once. 14 teachers, 7 to each kid. Like, how was I going to do that?
Each kid and a preschool. Yeah.
And a preschool. Yeah. I can't be that. So it creates this dynamic where.
And they don't need it. They don't need you to be that.
They don't need it.
That's the change in thought process. They don't need all that. They don't
need it. And I don't need to be it. They don't need me to be it, and they don't need to see me try to be it, because that's not what I'm trying to teach them.
No.
And we do have to like change our minds, and it's like we've been taught that unless you're stressing, you're not successful.
Yeah.
Like unless you're stressed and busy and overworked, then if you don't got your hands going like this at all times.
Every time somebody texts you, I'm busy. I've been so busy. I'm busy.
Yes. That
okay,
right
but
there.
What did you get done? Did you get anything done? Anything?
Yeah. What got done? What and how did that affect the world or yourself or your family or whatever? Like, were you absent the whole time you were doing that, and you missed your daughter's recital or your son's?
And you still had to stop and get fast food because you were so busy.
And soon you're gonna be busy going to the doctor trying to figure out how to fix all the rest
them headaches,
stress put on you and stuff.
Yeah.
Man, it just makes me reaffirm. I just want my kids to be happy. I want them to be able to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But I want them to be joyful, because we tend to look at people who don't have those types of professions, the ones who are like kind of able to have a little bit more leisure, and not because they're rich, but because they choose to they're not going to be they don't want to be a cardiothoracic surgeon,
right,
who's, pager's always going off in the middle of meals and recitals and theater and whatever, and they have to constantly be dashing off like Superman everywhere. Some people just want to be the guy with the guitar, who's able to make that guy who feels like Superman feel gentle and calm.
Yeah.
And he can only do that because his life isn't crazy and wild and whatever like that. Or even if it's not, he doesn't take on that mentality. Girl, we got to think outside the box with these children and with this future and with ourselves. And the more self-aware we are, the more we'll be able to really tap into what's important.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yep. That's it.
That is real. Yeah.
That's a perfect place to end it. The more self-aware we are, the more that we'll be able to deal with, and help others with what's important, to them. Yeah. And it's a ripple effect.
Joyful.
Yeah.
And find joy, really. Girl, amen.